So the best way to stay awake is just follow along, just highlight everything if you're bored, right? So here we go. Understanding mortgages. So I need you to understand it because guess what, guys? If you know stuff, you are powerful to make decisions. The bankers or whatever, they can't put you in a position where it's like, I don't know, I'm just going to sign. Where do I sign? Right? Because they're like, we're the bank and you're just nobody. It's like, no, you can tell them, like, as soon as a person, as you talk to them, if they show signs that they know their stuff, even if you don't know it all, you're less likely to be pushed in a situation where you're in trouble. And you can also ask questions that make the bankers like, oh, so you know stuff, right? Like, so that means that I will explain more to you, right? So here we go. Some of the terms. Mortgages. It's a loan to finance, right? It's a loan to finance real estate. And there's an interest rate. So this is on page 23. Amortization period, it's the length of time. Most mortgages are amortized over 25 years. And the reason being is because it's a big number, right? It's a big number. Equity. Yeah, page 23. Equity, the portion of the value of your property that you, what would you put in there? Own. Yes. See, you don't need to write a whole lot of notes down. Did you notice that? You just have to like do the math part. But other than that, I tried to minimize that. So there's your equity. The portion that you own. How about you highlight those things? Interest is the finance charge. It's what you pay to borrow money. We call it the total interest. They're all the same. Principal. It's the amount borrowed. Like the big principal is what you borrow. Okay. 23. Amount borrowed. Unpaid balance. The portion of the value of your property that is owed, right? Owed to the financial institution. So there's an unpaid balance. At the very beginning, it's called, right? There's the big principal, but then we start calling it unpaid balance as you start paying stuff off. Down payment, the amount of money you put towards the purchase of the house. Watch this. Highlight this part. The minimum amount of a down payment in Canada is 5%. That's federally legislated. You cannot get away without 5% down. When I bought my first house, it was a 0 down because they were desperate for home buyers 15 or so years ago. Now, not so much. It's the other way around. We're desperate for houses, not house buyers, right? We need more houses because there aren't enough. That's why the price is going up like crazy. But I want to say one thing. You're young. You might be worried about, am I ever going to be able to own a house? My advice to you is save up. Just save up for the opportunity, because one thing that I've learned in life is that nothing is certain. Like nothing is like, oh, the prices are going to go up like crazy forever and ever. All of a sudden something happens, comes down. And if you have money saved up and the houses come down, that's when you buy, right? Like that's your golden opportunity, your golden ticket. But if you don't have money saved up, it's hard to do that. Okay. So here's a bit of an example. You buy a house worth 200 grand. You make a down payment of 25,000. If I ask you how much is your mortgage, it's just subtracting that, right? 200,000 minus 25,000. So make sure you write this down because it's just a concept that I want you to understand. Like this is your mortgage. What's the equity in your property at the very beginning? At the very beginning, it is indeed the 25,000 that you put in. 25,000. What is the unpaid balance? In this case, 175,000 because it's at the very beginning. That's how much you owe them. It will decrease over time. Calculate the down payment as a percent. How would you do that? How would you calculate the down payment as a percent? That's exactly right. You're like, well, I have 25,000. It's actually, sorry, it's compared to 200,000. Sorry. Yeah. This is total, right? Total. This is what you have saved. And you have this much saved out of total, and then you multiply that by 100. That's how you do it every single time. Where's my calculator? My good calculator. There you go. 25,000 divided by 200,000 times 100. So that's the equivalent of 12.5%. Okay. So we put that in here, 12.5%. So this person has saved up 12.5%, which is way better than 5% minimum, which I would also suggest. 5 is like the minimum. More is better. Okay. Ready for this? Your head is gonna hurt a little bit, but you know what my intent is? That you're informed. That you're not. It's not the first time you hear this when you go to the bank. It's not the first time. This is the first time. And if you're now scratching your head a little bit, that's fine. Okay. So types of mortgages. There are two mortgages. That there's something we call a fixed rate and a variable rate. Fixed rate, variable rate. The name kind of says it all, right? A fixed rate, a mortgage with interest rate is unchanged. Sorry, unchanged for a specified period of time. When you choose a 5-year term, you're guaranteed to keep your interest rate you chose for that time frame. It's also known as a closed mortgage. Fixed, closed, the same thing. You're locked in for that number of years. But make no mistake, there are various time frames you can lock in for. Most people do 5 years. Okay. Variable, a mortgage where the interest rate may vary, fluctuate from month to month. It's also known as an open mortgage. Why in the world would you want to have an open mortgage? You might ask. Because it can go up and down anytime. The market goes up, the interest rate goes up. Everything goes down, interest rate. So that would be good if it goes down, right? This is probably people that are planning on selling pretty soon. So let's say you're close to retirement, you're getting too old to live in a home. That could be one example. Or you're just like ready to move to another neighborhood or a different house, you want to upgrade. You should probably, when it's time to, when your 5 years are over, let's say, you should keep it open until you sell your house. Because if you lock in for another 5 years, you're locked. You can't. There's a penalty to be paid if you pay this off faster. If you sell your home here, so then you would want to keep it open. But most of us, every 5 years I sign for another 5 years, and I sign for another 5 years. Some people are risk takers. They keep it open the whole time. Because they will say historically for the last 20 years, it's been mostly down than it has been up. So I'm just going to take a gamble and just keep it open the whole time. That's up to you. That is a preference thing. So watch this. This is old. Well, a year old, I would say. But look at this. I have some credit unions for the most part because they tend to have the lower interest rates. And then there's a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year comparison. So watch this. With Access Credit Union, a 1 year is 5.59, a 3 year is 5.49, a 5 year is 5.49. So why wouldn't you just go with a 5 year instead of a 3 year? Because they're guaranteeing you this interest rate for 5 years, right? And I listen to the news a lot, and analysts are saying interest rates are not going to come down in the next 2 years for sure. They're going to probably stay up in the next 2 years. So anyways, let's go over here. How does a fixed term mortgage work? How do fixed term mortgages work? Should have said mortgages, right? Let's assume you choose a 5-year term rate. This would implicate that you're not interested in selling your home for this time frame. If you do decide to sell, you'd have to pay a penalty, right? if you do decide to sell, you would pay a penalty. Remember, this is a fixed or a closed. The main reason for this is that the money the bank borrowed you is from people's investments, and they were promised a certain rate for a specified period of time. Okay, so they need to make sure they get that money back. So let's say, grab a highlighter here. So let's say this is, I sign my first mortgage right here, and I lock in for 5 years. Right, so this is a 5-year term. 5-year term. And let's say for this 5 years, I get a 5.49% rate. 5 years go by, which means you only have 20 years left in your mortgage, correct? Let's say at that point, you lock in for an incredible interest rate of 3.25%. Those 5 years go by, and so now that means that you only have 15 years left. Let's say now at that time, unfortunately, you're signing for an interest rate that is now 6.25. Something happened in the market. You're at the time of signing, you're locked in for 5 years, no matter what. And let's say that another 5 years go by, and hey, now it's 2.9%. You're locked out. And let's say if you signed 2 years ago, you probably would have had an amazing interest rate of 1.75%. So what I'm trying to tell you is that along your mortgage, along the 25 years, you may have different interest rates along the way. Okay? But the time that you remains to pay stays, right? So it's 5, 15, 10, 5, and then 0. Hopefully you're done paying off your house, no more payments, which is a very happy day. I wish that they would come sooner for me rather than later, but I still have probably 18 years left on my mortgage. So I'm right about here, right? So it's a long time, but then it's paid off, right? Why did I have this here? Let's say, I just wanted to show you what a lot of people do. They start here. They sign, 5 years go by. So this is 5, so this would be 30 years then in total. A lot of people start their mortgage, 5 years go by, and then they're like, hey, I want to do another 25 years from here on. Just extend it. So they will end up paying 30 years in total. And so all I wanted to kind of emphasize is that some people refinance for 25 years after the first 5. And why do you think people would want to do that? Why would you pay off 5 years? Because in total now you'll be paying 30 if you do that. And the reason being is to bring your, oh, sorry, Nick, you wanted to say?
I was just saying, I think it would bring your payments down.
It would bring your payment down because you've paid it off, and now, oh, I want another 25 years for what remains. So they take that remaining balance and spread it out over 25 years again. You know what? I would not blame you if you ever had to do that, because you get more responsibilities as you grow up. You might start a family. You might need another car. Kids are not cheap, right? They sports, clothing, all of that, right? So you might need more money in your pocket. So you might want to do this just to make ends meet, right? Inflation, you name it, right? So that's all I wanted to do there. Let's talk about a house or real estate is considered appreciating asset. So a house or real estate, I mean condo, property, just an empty lot, will appreciate usually over time. This is due to the fact that there is a limited supply right? There's limited supply, but then increasing demand. Supply and demand, you've probably heard that before, right? If you're in business or anything like that, there's a supply and demand. The more people want something, the more people are willing to pay for it. And so here's the golden rule of economics, right? Low supply and high demand will always drive up the cost of something. Low supply and high demand will always do that to something. Owning a house or condominium has its advantages, but there are many additional costs involved. The initial startup costs are greater, okay? And you're responsible for all repairs, maintenance, and bills. Okay, so I will say this: the initial startup costs are greater, your down payment, and you're responsible for all repairs, bills, and so forth. For some, renting is much more feasible. What's feasible? It's much more affordable, right? So when you rent, the startup costs are lower, most utility bills are included, and it's much easier to relocate. Major repairs are the landlord's responsibility. Okay, so there it is one more time, what I was trying to say the whole like earlier when we started this unit. So let's continue a little bit more here. I need to kind of hurry a little bit. Take your time, because then there's no homework. Most likely there won't be homework. But I need you to listen, because I will ask you questions regarding this, and I will test you on ACs, okay? And obviously quizzes and tests. So it's still important. Let's keep going. Is it? You're with me? We talked about payments yesterday, right? These are the formulas to figure out your payment. They're identical to vehicle finance, except for mortgages loan. Did I ask you to put like /loan there on your? If you didn't do that, then you can, right? Wherever there's mortgage, it's also just the loan when you use the vehicle finance formulas. Let's talk about this. This is very dear to me, and a lot of students. I'm going to pause here because I don't want to. I'm not gonna. You have the, the benefit of hearing this, and I'm not going to do a perfect job, but I'm going to try to educate you. So decrease the total interest paid. Next period. So how do you do that? Adding or decreasing or increasing payments. So I want you to highlight this with a different color, right? So how do you decrease the total interest paid? I want you to highlight that. And then I'm going to grab my yellow highlighter again. And you do that by adding or increasing your payment, right? There's usually a limit of 20% that you can pay off additionally without penalty. Okay, so here's some comparison. Watch this, guys. If you can just bear with me here, if your mortgage, look at where my pencil is. If your mortgage is $345,000 at this interest rate, you locked in for 5 years at that interest rate, but you're really amortizing it over 25 years. Watch this. Interest cost for the term is almost $90,000 for the 5 years, and total interest is almost $300,000. That's crazy. This is your monthly payment, right? So this is a regular mortgage. Let's go to the next column. I did this on an online calculator. It says here, making an additional $3,458 year payment. What does that amount to per month approximately? It's approximately $300 a month. So $300 per month. Let's write that down next to it. If you were to put in an extra $300 a month, watch what it does. How long are you now going to pay? Instead of 25 years, you're going to pay 19. It's going to be paid off in 19 years and 4 months. That's almost 6 years sooner. Can you imagine 6 years without having this payment? Because this is your monthly payment right here. You have to pay that. This is additional. So you pay off 6 years faster. So we'll say 6 years, right? Approximately 6 years sooner that you pay this off. And how much did you save on interest for the term? Only 3,048.16. But look at this for the total interest. How much would you save in total? You would save 75,068.87 cents. Total savings. Wouldn't you want to have that in your bank account instead of the bank? This is in your pocket because you were able to put an extra $300 a month towards your mortgage. And then you might say, well, at 300 is a lot, Mr. Dirksen, that's pushing it. Well, go with 100. Anything extra over a long period of time is going to pay off. And your payment obviously overall stays the same. This is what you must pay. This is extra, right? So you pay this plus that a month under this scenario here. And look at the the gray bars is what you compare to. Like, so the dark ones are regular mortgage without extra payments, and the gray bars represents this scenario right here. So you can tell that 19 years and 4 months, like it stops right there. So great comparison. I don't know about you, but 75 grand now or in 20 years, it's still a lot of money, right? So try to do that if you can. Next, how else can you decrease your interest paid? Increasing the payment frequency, right? Change from monthly to accelerated bi-weekly. This is on page 26. So this is monthly here. This is monthly. And instead of going monthly, you go accelerated bi-weekly. So that means every 2 weeks. And watch. You guys are almost done already, eh? Let me see here. I want to finish this page. Can we do that, please? Please, please, please. And then we don't have to talk about this as much. But let's say your monthly payment is this, but then you go accelerated bi-weekly. You do every 2 weeks. What happens to the time? From 25 to 21, you shave off almost 4 years. What about the interest? You don't save a whole lot, right? 89 versus 87, so that's $2,000 you save there. But look at the total interest. You notice a difference? 290 and let's say 240. That's 50 grand you're shaving off. All you're doing is paying every 2 weeks as opposed to every month. Anybody know why that is? Other than Nick? Sure, go for it, Nick.
I had the idea that it was sort of like compound interest, sort of where if you're paying more frequently, the interest that is accrued is a lot smaller because it's more being paid off more frequently.
That's right. And months, there's 12 months, right? How many bi-weekly periods are there in a year? How many 2-week periods? There are 52 weeks. 26, right? So what's 26 divided by 2? That's actually, it's like the equivalent of paying 13 months in a year as opposed to 12 months. So you're making an extra payment every year. But it's your idea combined with this is what's making it, what's saving you interest. So, oh yeah, here it is. Total interest savings right here, right here. I'm just too excited. You can tell, right? just by going it faster.
And the whole, if you look at biweekly, biweekly is just cutting a month to essentially accelerate biweekly. How much difference is that? Like, is it
If you go bi-weekly the way they have it, it's twice a month. If you go accelerated bi-weekly, it's every 2 weeks,
So it's
no matter what.
no matter what.
It's every 2 weeks. So some months you're gonna have 3 payments.
So you're paying about the same you would, but I
And
don't
most
see why you wouldn't do that.
most places pay bi-weekly, right? You have jobs, right? Some of you, don't they pay you every 2 weeks?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah. If you have once you have a job, I got paid every 2 weeks. Right now I'm semi-monthly as a teacher, but I wish I would be bi-weekly because then it's just easier. Just tell your bank. Just make sure. Can I tell you something, guys? One last, like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do more here. But if your payment comes in on the 15th every month, don't have things coming off on the same day, right? Like if you have a bill to pay, schedule it for like the 16th of every month, like the day after, because sometimes this paycheck doesn't come in or something goes wrong, then you're in trouble, right? So always have something come off the day after you're getting paid. Um, wouldn't it make sense that increasing your down payment would save you interest? I think you would know that. And decreasing the amortization period would also save you an interest. So I'm just reviewing what we already know. So thank you very much, guys. This is it. I'm not going to post any homework or anything like that.